Hey, welcome in to Restaurants in Pop Culture. I'm Jensen. That's 3-2 this way. I was the wrong way. MC 3-2. What's going on, man? You feeling good?
What up, yo? I'm chilling. Yeah, these allergies got me bugging a little bit, but other than that,
I like the color coordination. You're looking good. I got my
that's how
cherry
I always
blossoms.
do.
I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good episode. What are we getting into? We're getting into RIP004, episode 4 already. We're talking Sunday. This is episode 3 of The Bear. We're going to talk about top 3 restaurant movie scenes. Now we got hyper specific. We want restaurant, not just food, movie scenes from movies that are not about restaurants and chefs. This is like hyper specific. We got a couple good ones for you. And then we're also going to show a little love to some Chicago restaurateurs that inspire The Bear, the show that is everything we're talking about right now. We also have a special guest. Any of the lifers on Best Served Podcast know KC Gonzalez at Salty Chef out in Jersey, been on the show before. He's going to join us and give his takes on episode 3 as well. So we should have a good vibe going for this show. Before we get into that, though, as always, we got to get into some top 3. So like I said, this is a very hyper-specific one. We're going to do top 3s every single show. And a lot of people have been hitting us back with agreeing on stuff, telling them our takes is shit, and we love all of it. So please bring it on. We want to hear from you. And these top 3 was all about restaurant scenes in movies not about restaurants. And I think we're probably going to end up doing a worst restaurant scenes in movies not about restaurants, because it seems like quite often when they don't care about what happens in restaurants, these restaurant scenes are garbage. 3-2, I know you feel me on that. For sure. But we're going to talk about some of the tops. All right, so let's get right into it. Top 3 restaurant scenes in movies not about restaurants. 3-2, who's coming in at number 3?
All right. So for me, now I'm going to say a lot of these are like they barely even have to do with food. Like they take place in a restaurant.
All right. That's perfect.
But
even better.
Like I'm an action movie guy, and I remember being little, like a teenager or younger than a teenager when Under Siege came out, and Steven Seagal being Casey Ryback, the chef. That's like nobody knows that he's an ex whatever Marine or whatever that
Navy
he was.
SEAL, Special
yeah,
Forces.
Navy SEAL, yeah. And so there's like a scene when all the dudes come in to try to take him out, and they're like, oh, he's just a cook. And I remember a specific moment when he like throws a knife at a dude and it like catches him in the throat. And to me, that like I equated chef skills to being able to throw a knife off. If my mom were here to tell you the stories of
you throw knives at all of her stuff,
the chipped up door that we have in the house, because every time that she was off and I was off on summer break, I was taking all our kitchen knives and trying to throw it at the door because of that scene. So that like that's
that was serious. All right, my number 3. My 4 and 3 were like pretty tough, and I felt like I had to give one to the kids. And so quick honorable mention was Lady and the Tramp. The spaghetti scene is like a timeless scene, but it did not quite make it. Number 3 for me was A Christmas Story at the Chinese restaurant, the Peking duck, right? and Dad going, it's smiling at me, and he goes whack, and lops that head off. And I'm pretty sure the mom broke character because she like freaks out, and I was like, what a great scene that was, right? And then they're sitting there, slightly racist, singing fa ra 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 ra, right? That, but just timeless and classic. And Easter egg on the tables. If you watch that scene again, you will see these tall shakers that have MSG in them, because they used to have MSG, aka Make So Good, on the tables at Cantonese style Chinese restaurants. And so you'll see that in there. You were literally seasoning it like you would season with salt on those. So that was my number 3. What's number 2 for you?
Okay, there's another action scene. There's a martial arts movie, right? So there's this movie. I don't even know what the actual name of the movie is, because
perfect, even better.
It's like, you know how they translate like Chinese movies into English for the title, and sometimes it has nothing to do with the actual movie. So this movie was called Ninja Masters. Yeah, this movie was called Ninja Masters, but it had no ninjas in it, and it actually was a Chinese kung fu movie instead of a Japanese ninja movie. But for whatever reason, anyway,
even more racism just to lay on top of it. We don't even know what Asians were making fun of now. Come on, people.
Right. One of the most prolific fight scenes in that movie takes place in the kitchen, where because the main character is this martial arts teacher or what have you, who gets hired to be the bodyguard for this millionaire's wife. And so this martial artist, she's like super badass, and the very first scene where the wife gets kidnapped, they take her through the kitchen. So then the kidnappers leave like their huge henchmen back to fight the protagonist. And so there's this huge fight in the kitchen. It's got that whole, like, you know, the metal line, the stainless steel line with the window.
I mean, are we like
the tickets and everything,
people over the head with walks and all of it?
Smashing people over the head with walks and pots, swinging legs, like swinging through from one end of the line to the other, like smashing people's heads or faces against the griddle, all that. And it's like
the sizzling face on the griddle. That's timeless, man.
And it's like the fight scene lasts a good 5 minutes. Like it's a good fight scene. And I was just like, wow, they really utilized every inch of this kitchen. And it was like, when it happens, you just see all the cooks like scatter, and then the fight just goes on and on and on and on. But it's
you were lying. You're going obscure, and there's not any food in any of these scenes so far. Huh?
Right.
Love it. All right,
I got a good one for the next one though.
All right, so number 2 for me. I don't know of any food. I don't know what they were eating, but when Harry Met Sally, girl Meg Ryan's fake orgasm there in the diner is all-time classic. However, that part of the scene is whatever. It's the lady afterwards that goes, I'll have what she's having. One of the most iconic movie scenes ever, iconic movie lines. And what I heard was that Billy Crystal actually added that in. It wasn't in the script, and he suggested it to Rob Reiner. Literally the most memorable line from an all-time classic movie. So that for me was my number 2. All right, number 1.
All right, number 1 for me. The rib scene from I'm Gonna Get You Sucka. I don't know if you know this movie, but this is like a classic black 80s movie. And there's a scene with a young Chris Rock where he walks in, and Isaac Hayes is working at the Rib Shack. And Chris Rock walks in, and he's like, how much for one rib? And he's like, okay, 1 order of ribs coming up. And he's like, no, not 1 order, 1 rib.
1 rib.
And he's like, you just want 1 rib? And he's like, yeah, I sure am hungry. And like, and then he's like, let me figure it out. And then he tells him how much it is. And he's like, how much for a soda? And then he tells him how much the soda is, like $2. He's like, good Lord, that's a lot of money. How about you just pour it in my hand or whatever? And then, and then after he tells him the price, it gives him the price, then he pulls out $100 bill and is like, you got change for 100? And that's just one of my favorite restaurant like joke scenes ever.
Wow, yeah, you're making me get in the tank here. Like, these are some movies that I'm have to go back and watch. A movie that I've never even heard of. Like, I love this, man. I feel like I got good scenes, but I'm not putting anybody on something that they haven't heard of. So
that's what I do. That's my steez.
Respect. Number 1 for me, Pulp Fiction, the $5 milkshake is number 1 for me. Quentin Tarantino is my favorite filmmaker ever. Pulp Fiction, so iconic. Steve Buscemi as Buddy Holly as the waiter was just like so good. And the $5 milkshake, that's milk and ice cream, $5. Right. And I love that line. I talk about it all the time. I say, when I'm confused on something, I say I'm a little bit of a $5 milkshake on this one. People go, what does that mean? I was like, I don't know, because I don't know what a $5 milkshake is. So that to me was number 1. The $5 milkshake is my number 1 scene. These are good, man. God, I love these. I love these because these force me to go down memory lane sometimes.
Yeah.
And I've been pulling a lot of oldies I've recognized in a lot of these. Like these are some old movies. I think 1994 is the most nouveau I went on this list. You got movies that we don't even know the real title of it.
Right. And it's funny because like I realized that there's so many food and restaurant scenes in movies I don't even pay attention to a lot of times. And so rather than try to dig super deep and to like find ones that I may have seen that struck a nerve at one point, but then I forgot. I just go with the ones that are still like, no matter how old the movie is, the scene is still fresh in my mind. And so that's what like topped those things off and made them my top 3. Because even though there may have been better produced scenes or acted scenes or more prolific food scenes, the fact that these ones were fresh in my brain,
That's
where
right.
I was able to pluck them from all different, however long ago they came out. Those are, I was like, okay,
Yeah, we're not over here talking about the quality and the integrity of this from a filmmaking standpoint and a storytelling.
Exactly.
We're like, this shit's just memorable for people that work in restaurants. So appreciate that for sure. All right, we're gonna bring KC here in just a moment, but I want everyone to go check out this article that I just read in Eater Chicago by Samantha Nelson. It was called "How the Bear Leaned on Chicago Restaurant Legend Donnie Medea and One-Off Hospitality." Really want everyone to check this out because it's so intertwined. Donnie's story and Mr. Beef, the place where original beef is, that restaurant location. Joseph Zucchero, who's an icon, 35 years, I think Mr. Beef was open. He just passed away in March. Rest in peace. He was a mentor of Donnie. And Donnie is an absolute legend. Like, I know who Donnie is. A lot of us in restaurants know who Donnie is because we know places with like Blackbird and Publican and Avec. Like these are serious restaurants. And the fact that there's this intertwined story, and then you're starting to, through the season, you'll see Donnie's restaurants making a show of it. And so it's another just dabs to Christopher's store and all these guys. Like they're really digging deep to make sure that these storylines intersect. So I want everyone to go check out that article. Just Google that, How the Bear Leaned on Chicago Restaurant Legend Donnie Medea and One-Off Hospitality in Eater Chicago. Give that a read. I think anybody who's appreciating the Bear will appreciate this because it's setting the tone for the type of show that this is. It's just a deeper understanding, respect. So, all right, let's get into this. Let's get into the Sundae episode 3. Yo, KC.
Yo, what's up?
What's going on?
Chilling, grilling, usual. Or I should say slinging and noodling.
Slinging and noodling.
Oh man, Ten Momi, I see you everywhere. I see you at markets. I see you, man, just slinging noodles. Give us the 42 seconds, man. Ten Momi out in New Jersey. What's going on? Let the people know.
Okay, I guess just one sentence. Best ramen in New Jersey. So just saying, that's pretty much it.
You heard it here, people. Let's go.
Heard it. All right, that's the big claim.
Respect.
Oh my goodness, yeah. That's all I got, and just you can look up the name and the articles pop up.
Ten Momi, TENMOMI. Go check it out, man, for real. And then
my head can't get any bigger.
Chef, make sure you check him out on TikTok. Always real. The fucking hair is always just wild and just I'm like,
especially
I know what kind of mood you're in,
bro,
because the hair is just going wild.
You see the tan line on my head because I have to keep a hat on because you're serving food, so it just
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it, man. All right, real quick for you, on the spot, no preparation. Number one restaurant scene in a movie not about restaurants. What do you got? Anything jump out at you?
It's tough because all of the scenes that I remember with restaurants all involve like old school like Chinese martial art movies. So like
you
like
you and Chris are on a level.
I always remember they always fight inside of the kitchens. Literally all of them. Like it doesn't matter. It's like a thing. So for me
yeah,
it would just be one of those,
We right here. We right here.
Yeah, no doubt. Why aren't white people fighting in kitchens? The only thing a fight scene in a kitchen I can think of is like the Marvel movie, the Ant and Wasp. They're fighting in the kitchen, and that's like, she's running on the back of a knife as a tiny little wasp. Like,
right.
That's all we got. That's all we got. Nothing.
I think that's because in a lot of kitchens where anything with punches or whatever would be thrown, it's by the chef, and nobody wants to smoke with the chef. So they just let it get thrown, and then they say, yes, chef, and then they put their head down and keep rolling.
I mean, that's what's messed up about Hollywood, maybe. When you see a kitchen in most Hollywood movies, it's because they're running from the bad guy and they're sneaking through the kitchen.
Yeah,
into the kitchen to the back.
That's all you see. They don't stop and fight in the kitchen. Oh, now I'm kind of pissed off. I feel like if you don't know about Shifu fighting in the kitchen, Are you even on that level? I don't even know. Wow. You guys just flipped my whole mind. I feel embarrassed that I wasn't thinking about the Chinese restaurant. I had a Christmas story. I bridged that gap a little bit, but hey. All right. Let's get into this. So, Casey, the way we break this down is we're going to rank out of 10. Okay. And we do a 3, 2, 1 countdown. So we can't be influenced by each other's scores. Oh, nice. So we're going to do that. And don't do an even number. Whatever you do, that's rookie. Okay. It's got to be decimal. Got to be decimal points. We got it. The nuance. All right. Let's get into it. 3, 2, 1. 8.7.
8.7. 8.7.
Oh, am I higher than you, Chris? What did you say?
Yeah, you are. I said 7.7.
Yo,
that's great.
Wait a minute. Is this your lowest scored of the first 3 episodes?
I think it is.
I think you had a 7.8. I think you had a 8.3, and now a 7.7. Okay. Yeah. Wow, I went the other way. This was by far the highest rank. So, Casey, I had episode 1 at a 7.4, episode 2 at a 7.3, and I jumped way up, and we'll get into it.
For this one.
Look, you're our guest here. 8.7. You and me now are on a level. KC is vibing with the hosts right here.
8.7.
Break it down for me. What'd you like about it? 8.7 is a high score.
This one spoke to me particularly because I was just mentioning this to my new employee now, right? I have an employee. I was like, I don't think you'll grow any faster in your career unless you eat at other restaurants, try their foods. So I did this for a good period of 3 years, literally in the US. I just kind of went around and just ate. I didn't even, I let my hands do the texture. I let my taste buds do it. And when I got back to the restaurant, I was just like, this now I can create actual like different dishes, not inspired by everybody else that I've tasted from. It opened the palate. So I was just telling him, I mean, I know we're busy, we're in a restaurant, but do your best to always try new food, because that's how your brain is going to explode. So for me, this was one of the highest.
Yes. All right. I want to dig into a couple of those points, but I want you to get your high level first, Chris. I like this. Usually I'm the salty chef here, and Chris is like, I'm loving this shit. He's the lover, I'm the fighter. But now, Chris.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
But to put in perspective, 7.7 is still mad respectable. Like, it's not like below 5 or anything like that. Like, it's not to say that I didn't love the episode or didn't like the episode.
But categorically, you recognize it as less than 1 and 2.
And let me tell you the reasons why. There's small, minute reasons why I didn't put it above an 8. And that's mostly because at the very beginning, we get teased that there's going to be a little bit more of like Tina and Ibrahim the situation with her where she's embracing culinary school. He's not. He turns around and walks off. And like, there's a time where she's wiping off and she notices his absence again and all that. And so I was hoping that they were going to get a little bit more into that in this episode. And I know that they're going to delve deeper into it later, just because they're not going to leave it that flat for no reason. But I was just hoping to see more of that this episode. But that was the main reason that it got below an 8. It was just because I felt like I didn't get the payoff from the cliffhanger that they left me at the beginning. But that was it. Well, and then I also had a question to myself of just like, I'm starting to wonder how skilled Sid actually is, because like with a lot of the dishes that they're making, like you have some missteps and like some, that didn't quite hit perfectly, but the number of times where they make something and then they literally violently spit it out, like, that was gross. Like
3 times so far.
Yeah. And when she did it
I'm with you 100%. I have a note right here that says, why is everything Sydney makes inedible?
Yeah.
Like, I know, like,
it wasn't even like
some stuff, but damn.
Yeah. Yeah, because it wasn't even like, you eat it, you mull it around your palate a little bit and you go, okay, I can see where that needs adjustment. It's like she takes it, like they spit it out.
Violently spit it
out. And I'm like, at this point, I'm like, okay, maybe that's part of the whole thing eventually, is that maybe she's not, because it's one thing when you're making sandwiches, but when you delve into fine dining and maybe her britches were bigger than maybe
she was for it.
Oh,
Oh, so you're like
interesting take.
you're like getting some futuring into this. You're like, wait a minute. Maybe I'm doubting her a little bit because she
Yeah.
obviously was the central character of this episode.
Right.
KC, I mean, you push the boundaries. All three of us push the boundaries.
Yeah.
You ever violently spit out something because you're trying to fuck with it that hard? Yeah.
Yeah, the first specifically the first time I made nuk cham, which is a Vietnamese
pretty-
kind of sweet and sour
I mean,
fish
that's
sauce. Right?
It's easy to
Yeah.
fuck that
Correct,
up.
correct.
Yeah.
But like I didn't know. I was just like, yeah, I'll add this. I was just like, yo, no,
Yo.
so bad. So
The reason they cook that till it's almost caramel is because you need all of that sweetness.
you need all that sweet to counter the funk. I didn't know. This is young cook me. So yeah,
Okay.
that was literally one of the times I spat food out.
Over marinated radicchio? I don't know. That does seem a little bit forced, and that was a big note that I had for sure. The one part where Sydney's hands touched the pasta made me really uncomfortable too. I was like, "Ooh."
No, you didn't like it.
I was like, "Oh
Maybe
man."
you should wash your hands.
I
You know?
know. So for me, this opening of Carmi, this is the most connected I've felt to Carmi on the season so far, and I want to show everyone a clip because this is what like really set the tone for me of this episode. Which, to your point, Chris, I felt like I wanted more of this emotion. But let's take 90 seconds. Check this out for everybody. A little spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen this episode.
I think when I was a kid, anything that would give me any sort of excitement or amusement or enjoyment, it always got kind of fucked. And, I don't think my family meant to ruin it or anything like that. I don't think they did it on purpose, but I think sometimes they try too hard. Or they'd make promises that they weren't able to keep. I have to remind myself to breathe sometimes. I have to remind myself to be present, Remind myself that the sky is not falling, that there is no other shoe, which is incredibly difficult because there's always another shoe. I don't know. I think, maybe if I could provide more amusement or enjoyment for myself, it would be easier to provide for others. I don't know.
Dude, right out of the gate.
Yeah, right.
It's
Right,
slow.
the first 2 minutes is just him soliloquy
It's
in the beginning.
intense.
Just let it all out.
And even that moment in the middle there where like it felt like he was going to break into tears, hit in my stomach because I've said almost all of those words to people before. Like I didn't remind myself to breathe. I had to remind myself to stop and go take a fucking piss because I couldn't get out of the intensity. Like I had to stop for a second, go scream in the walk-in to literally cool my body down to be able to like take a breath. All right. And then if I only knew how to kind of give myself some joy and excitement, I might be able to do it better for others. Like so often it was like filling a void. Like if I fed people, I made them happy because I was empty. Like these are real things for me personally. I think a lot of people in the industry. So I had goosebumps. I was hooked. So they did an amazing job where for sure I have notes, a couple things, Chris, that you said, but that thing was a 9. If it ended at that scene, it would have been a 9.7. Like that to me is one of the most powerful scenes I've ever seen in a movie, period. And Jeremy Allen White, he just like won another Golden Globe for that right there. That it was so powerful. And so anybody who's watching that, I feel like can really resonate with that. That's borderline, like you need a trigger warning at the beginning of something like that, because that's intense for a lot of people who've been through restaurants. So for me, that's what put it at that 8.7 level. And then I really liked a lot of things. Donnie Medea was in the episode. That was so rad to see. Having met him before, they're at a VEC. I'm like, it was so beautiful. And she goes, we want to open in May. And he goes, huh. Oh, that was so good because he's like, yeah, you're adorable because it's always harder, takes longer, and costs more money. That's the only fact anybody can tell you about what it takes to open a restaurant. So it's cute when they start the episodes as 12 weeks out. 12 weeks, 11 weeks to open was this episode.
Yeah.
You're adorable. There's no way you're opening that restaurant, especially when you see that they had to knock down all of the walls in the restaurant. Zero chance you're opening in 11 weeks, right? That's never going to happen. So there was just a lot of reality there. And he also said something that's a statement in our industry that's almost as powerful as constant gentle pressure from Danny Meyer. When he talks about your hospitality has to be overwhelming, is something that I've heard Donnie Medea say before. Amazing that they got to get that line in there. That is, to me, a very, very memorable line for hospitality. It has to be overwhelming. And they do it at VEC. So I thought that was really cool. They sneak in a little herd. Sydney throws out a herd in there in that little sequence. So it's like nice. I like that we're getting the corners, the behinds, the herds. I thought was great. The poaching.
Yeah, that scene was hilarious.
Yo,
Poaching was funny.
Scurries like a mouse when the lights come on. You know, are you seriously poaching right in front of me? Yeah, gotta go. I'm like, that's some real shit as well. And then, you know, the music video montage, I kind of liked it. You know, like I thought it was all right. Having a little music video montage in there. We talked about the music before. I thought that was all right.
One thing that was dope for me was the question that they kind of pose, which is, especially because I've been in the position of when you are maybe second in command, but you're not the one with the money. And she wants to be part of the whole, like how upset she got about not being included in the conversation about the wall and all that stuff. And it's like, yes, it's understandable that you want to, because you feel like since you're on the ground with them, that you should be privy to all the conversations. But then there's some conversations that are like, these are the dudes with the money and the dudes that are invested conversations. And you focus on the food and all that stuff, but you don't necessarily have a dog in this fight right here. So we'll talk to you in a minute, but chill out for a minute. And it's like, I've been in that position where
it's a hard conversation.
You're at the beginning, and it's a hard conversation, and it's a humbling thing to be in for you when you're like, wow, I need to take a couple steps back because
this is above your pay grade. You're like, ooh.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm invested, but I'm not as invested as they are. And so like this isn't, as much as it would be nice for me to feel like I'm included in everything, really when it's all comes down to it, like it's not her money, it's not her name on the door, it's not her reputation. She's going to be part of it, but when it's all said and done, it's not hers. And so there's a part where it's like, yeah, you got to take a couple steps back. And at first you want to feel for her and you want to be like, yeah, why didn't they consult her? But then you're like, well, wait a minute, that's actually not for you.
Yeah, I don't think we got that though. I think for us, we got it. Like I bet you it's like if you were to ask one of your buddies that has never worked in a restaurant, it's like, what do you just think of this scene? It was just like, oh, she wasn't included. But like the three of us immediately, it's like, yo, you're not even a percentage in there, so you don't even know that conversation. So
that's
I got it right away.
And part of the reason, if I were her, I'd be mad to the degree that she might have been mad, not understanding what we just talked about, is the fact that Neil and Marcus were in on it, you know, and they got to be a part of that decision because they happen to be there, because you're going around tasting, you're developing menus, and they're sitting here dealing with mold and moving lockers and stuff around.
Right.
So they happen to be in the right place at the right time. But for her, she probably felt like, well, these guys get to be a part of it. You know, why don't I? And then, to your point, Chris, I think there was several kind of setup scenes that maybe were to some degree unnecessary. It was like you kind of had to check in with Tina and Ibrahim. You kind of had to check in with Richie a little bit. I like that, even Taylor Swift made it into this episode, talking about the music. So I think the daughter scene there, it basically Sydney and Carmi were that whole episode, and then they just tried to make sure you know, hey, everyone else is still around.
Which is like it's letting you know now. Like I feel like this was the episode that lets you know that this story is bigger than the cast itself, because they're now starting to delve into everybody's circles that exist outside of their chef circle.
Yeah.
And so you're starting to get more of that. One thing that Sydney said that like I thought was dope too was when she said restaurants suck at desserts.
Yes.
I felt that line so much because chefs, I mean, a lot of chefs, we don't like to do desserts.
Nah,
And
man,
so
we're gunslingers. We don't want to measure stuff.
Yeah.
grams.
So unless you're at a
Come
spot where they have a pastry chef, a lot of times you're getting half-assed desserts, or you're getting some restaurants you're getting like shamrock desserts that you just pull out the freezer and all that. Like, yeah. So I mean, I agree 100%. Like, there's been so many pastry or dessert menus that I look at and I'm just like, man, I don't want any of this.
Or sometimes you'll have like that one pastry chef that works like 4 restaurants because they only can afford part-time. You're like, wait a minute, you're just cycling back through these desserts you were doing 2 years ago at this other joint. Like, what's going on over here? Yeah, and the pastry department, right, is like the most laughable part of a kitchen. Poor Marcus in the first episode, I can't believe that he ended up with as much space and he's making fruit leather and shit and doing Noma fermentations in the corner. Like, what the hell? This is an Italian beef joint, right? On New Orleans Avenue. Like, what the hell's going on here? So, and last thing I thought was they did a pretty good job with the food. The food was a little bit more a part of the scene because there was actually food, right? There was a couple little tasting things, right? There was some cutting of celery at culinary school. We haven't actually seen food in the first 2 episodes. So the longanisa looked real good. And I love I love throwing the hash brown on the sandwich. That feels like crushing potato chips on your sandwich. I like that style. I don't want to have to eat 2 things. Why not just pile it on onto one thing? So I thought the food looked really good. The little lineup where they're talking about the dishes and things like that felt real, kind of scattered. Like chef is just like spouting out stuff randomly. You're like, wait, what's on the menu tonight? So
and the pre-shift that gave me row 14 flashbacks. The pre-shift,
the pre-shifts.
Yeah, the pre-shift, man, was for sure just that whole scene. They were just bobbing and weaving back and forth through a lot of like restaurant things, and I thought that they've done things to accelerate the pace artificially sometimes where you're like, yeah, they're just trying to make it a little hectic, but that felt like bobbing around town, trying different things. You got the montage of plates getting built, looking like, the molecular gastronomy type stuff. It's like modernist cuisine and those dudes doing crazy things. But then they showed the pre-shift. They showed her rapping with some restaurant people. She's tasting some food. I really appreciated that bit of it. It felt like a good use of the cliche montage. I don't think I wanted in every episode, but it felt pretty on point for kind of what was happening there. So, oh man. All right, KC, have you watched the whole season?
Yeah, I watched the whole season.
What about you, Chris? Have you jumped forward? I'm staying one episode at a time because I want to.
You're one episode. That's why. So I was so quiet on what I was gonna say because I had no idea if you watched ahead or anything. So I didn't want to spoil.
I have not watched ahead. I mean, look, I've watched enough. Like, I can only scroll past so many clips or see so many like promo videos and stuff. So,
got it.
I know plenty of other stuff is happening, but I wanted to stay like really focused because sometimes an episode can be better later. Like, I'm still wondering what's going on with Marcus's mother. Like, I'm in episode 3 and it was literally the beginning scene. To Chris's point, they're stretching themselves thin now. They're getting in a situation where they have to close some loops or continue some arcs, or they're going to start to lose us. Because if I get to episode 5 and I don't know more about Marcus's mom, I'm going to forget why I should care about that because it was so many episodes ago. So they're starting to get to a point, and I think that's what you picked up on, Chris. I'm still giving them the benefit of the doubt because they're really good at kind of reaffirming those story arcs and those character arcs. And so we'll see what happens with that.
There's one thing in this episode also that I feel like we have to at least touch on, just because it was so prevalent, is how they showed how hard hit COVID hit how hard hit the city was with the
Yeah.
restaurant scene when COVID hit, and all the closures and all the restaurants, and like all the montage of the articles of restaurants closing and like staples of the city that had been there for so long and closing, because we went through that here in Denver. There's so many restaurants that were around for 20, 30 years that closed down because of COVID. And so I feel like that was super poignant too. And I felt like we had to at least touch on that before the episode was over.
Yeah, I felt that for sure. And that was the second scene. Like, we showed the first scene that just completely blew my mind. And that's the second scene. Like, this was emotional roller coaster that, again, kept me at that 8.7. I thought they did a good job of that. Yeah, even the style that they did it felt like it went into a little bit of a news feed montage, which was different than the music video montage. And I thought they did a good job. I think the director's name was Janet Carroll, who did this episode. I thought did a really, really good job, and stylistically, I thought it was super cool. But yeah, those COVID closures, and then they reinforced it. Right, she walked up to one of the shops that said closed, and it had that sign that we've all seen, thanks to our customers, like that appreciation sign. But we couldn't make it, we couldn't do it anymore, type thing. So that was pretty real. All right, KC, you get last thoughts, man. What do you got for us? Take us out of this episode.
Last thoughts will always be. And I think this will be a forever question for all of us. Is like, is it worth it? Right? It's like, is this journey that we're doing always worth it? Is the schooling or the Michelin route worth it? Or be your own business owner worth it? And my answer will always be yes. But you don't need to go formal with it. You can just literally do it by your bootstraps. You know?
I was shocked when you said you had an employee, man. I was. Whoa! Did he just say? So two things. One, I was like, "Oh, I'm so happy for you. Like that makes me feel good that people are recognizing and you have the growth." And second, I'm like, "Well, now he can't be like I'm a one man show."
Correct. Now it can't, bitch. Now it's just like, nope. I got.
That's.
I still need an egg peeler, by the way. I need it. It's crazy. I did 400 eggs myself Wednesday. I don't want to do it. Anymore.
That's too.
That doesn't sound
much,
fun at all.
Man. That's too much. All right, Casey, appreciate you again. Everyone at Salty Chef on TikTok, get at him for sure. There's a lot of good content there. Always real. Always dropping knowledge for people. Always saying, "Here's what's going on in my world right now," and I appreciate that for sure. And oh man, this was fun. This felt good. I think we need some more co-hosts, Chris. This is nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Get that trifecta vibe in here. All right, everybody. Let us know how we did. Let us know your ranking of episode 3 Sunday. We'll be back for episode 4 next week, every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Eastern time. Besser Podcast producing this. You can find this on Facebook and YouTube. Clips all over the interwebs. And this is good shit, guys. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Cheers.